Good morning, campers. This is Crusader Rabbit KBNY 5962 starting our broadcasting day. And today, for your viewer enjoyment, we're bringing you My First Leica test roll, My First Leica version 3. I've had two previous versions of My First Leica. They were both Leica 3F, just like this camera is a Leica 3F. However, they were both black dial cameras. This is a red dial camera, and the difference is that the flash sync setting beneath the shutter speed dial on the black dial cameras, the numbers are all in black. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a red dial camera, and these numbers are all in red. That's one way of telling that this is a red dial. Another way of telling is the actual speeds on the shutter dial. These speeds go from 1/25th of a second to 1/1000th of a second. And it goes from like 25 to a 50th of a second to a 75th of a second to 1/100th of a second. And I believe the black dials, you could look back at one of my previous videos, I think they go from like a 30th of a second to like 45th of a second, and then a 60th, and then to 100. I might be wrong on that. You can check me in the comments if you like. But that's another difference between the red dial and the black dial. The red dial camera also has a improved shutter, and I was having problems with my shutter on my black dials, so that's why I thought, well, if I'm having problems with the shutter on the black dials, let's try the red dial camera with the improved shutter. Now, this camera, by the serial number, if I look up the serial number, it says that this camera was made in 1953. So this camera is about 70 years old. However, the seller that I purchased it from refurbished the camera, said they did a CLA on it, clean, lubricated, and adjusted. And I'll tell you, he did a beautiful job on the camera. I don't know if you can see through the viewfinder part is really nice and clear. I don't know if you can see through it here. The rangefinder part is I really love the rangefinder on these. I wear glasses. The rangefinder window is magnified and then also has a diopter control, so I can take my glasses off and I can dial in and see and focus through the rangefinder. When you wear glasses and you look through the viewfinder or the rangefinder, the lens of your glasses kind of like keeps you away from the really being able to like take your eyeball and put it very close. For instance, on the viewfinder window with my glasses, I really can't see the entire viewfinder with my glasses on. But if I take my glasses off, then I can see the entire viewfinder, which is representative of the 55 millimeter frame size to allow you to compose your photo. So anyway, that's the back of the camera. We have the rangefinder, viewfinder windows, and then we have the flash sync here. And I don't use a flash, so I really don't care about the flash sync. Although the gentleman that refurbished the camera said that the flash was tested and that the flash worked. But probably something I won't be using. The front of the camera, you have your two rangefinder windows, and that's going to give you like the double image, and then when you focus your camera, that's going to bring the images together or separate them, depending on how you move the focus. And then this is where you see through for your viewfinder, and that's that window there. So that's the front of the camera, your rangefinder windows, and then your viewfinder window. And then we have your slow speed dial, which goes from a 25th of a second down to 1 second, and then also has a timer feature on it. This is the top of the camera. There's like a film reminder here. There's a selector here that you can switch between a rewind function or a film advance function. This is your shutter button here. This is your shutter speed selector here that goes between 25th of a second all the way up to 1/1000th of a second, and then also has a B setting. And then this is your film rewind feature here that raises up to allow you to rewind easier. And then, like I was saying before, this is your diopter correction here. And then we've done the back, we've done the front, or we've done the top, the front, we've done the front, sides, not very interesting. That you have like little lugs here for camera strap attachment. And the bottom, he said bottom. This is the bottom of the camera, and there's a the camera back doesn't open up. The camera bottom does, and this allows the body to have a nice rigid strength to it, so that it doesn't like deform or creak or warp. Makes for a nice, very sturdy body. And it's marked for open and close in both English and German, I believe. And to open, it's telling us to move it this way, and then you just kind of use this little lever, and then that opens up your camera. And you have instructions here that tells you how to clip your film to get it in. There's a rewind window, or a rewind spool here, rewind spool, and then this is where your film cartridge would go, and then you clip your film accordingly, and then put it in. And then that's what you do to close it, and then the film back tells you which way to turn to close, and then you can put this down, making it nice and flush. And the camera's in really nice condition. The bottom doesn't look scratched up. The top is looking, or the front of the camera looks pretty clean. The top of the camera, there's I don't know if you can tell, there's like a little bit of like marking here. There's like some like maybe small scratches. Oh, this is the like hot shoe, cold shoe, accessory shoe right here. Oh, and I also forgot, this is the film advance counter right here. So when you load your film, you can take this and set it to, like a couple of stops below 0. Then you like are advancing your film. And then eventually it gets to 0, and then you're ready to shoot your first picture. Let's see, what was I talking about? Oh, we were kind of like looking, and then the back of the camera, there's it looks pretty clean. There's I don't see any pitting or rust. There's like some very minor scratches, and it looks like maybe like one little ding right there. Other than that, the actual body of the camera, like I said, it was made in 1953, so the actual body of the camera looks pretty nice for being, well, 50 to 2000 would be 50 years, and then 2000 to 2020 would be 70 years. So it's like 70 years old, made in 1953, according to the serial number. So I went and took and put a, let's go through the film speeds really quick so you can hear the film speeds. It's always good to cock the shutter on a Leica 3, Leica 3F, before actually setting the shutter speed. You would cock the shutter as such, just turn the shutter cocking dial, and that's the shutter release, of course. So once the shutter is, when the shutter is released, it's pointing at some speed, but it's not the speed that it's actually set to. When you cock the shutter, it's now set to where you will be shooting the shutter speed at. So we can take, and because we've cocked the shutter, we can safely take this and move it to 1/1000th of a second. So 2 reasons you want to have the shutter cocked. First of all, so you're setting to the proper speed you think you're setting it at. And second of all, so you don't mess up the internal mechanisms, because I hear if you don't cock your shutter before you set your speed, then you can mess up the gearing on the inside. And we certainly don't want that. So this is what a thousandth of a second sounds like. And you can see the little knob move when we take the shot. Let's do that again. Thousandth of a second. One more time. Just a silky smooth sounding shutter. So let's go ahead and set this at a 500th of a second. You can see the little arrow there and pointing to the little line by 500. Okay, let's go ahead and move down to a 200th of a second. That's what a 200th of a second sounds like. So let's move to a 100th of a second. 1/100th of a second. That's what 1/100th sounds like. So let's go ahead and move to a 75th of a second. So far, all speeds sound pretty good. Let's go ahead and move to a 50th of a second. You lift up on the dial, and then it doesn't recess until you actually get over like a 50th of a second. So I don't believe there's any in-between speeds here. You're just, yeah, you know, well, a 25th or a 50th or 100. I don't believe it does in-between speeds. If I'm wrong, somebody can check me in the comments below. So this is a 50th of a second. You can kind of hear it's taking a little longer to complete the shutter mechanism. And let's go down to 1/25th of a second. And when you set this to 125, 1/125th, then you are taking control to the front of the camera. And currently we are set at 1/25th of a second. So this is what 1/25th sounds like. And here it's a little slower. Okay, and let's go to a slower speed. Let's go to a 15th of a second. There's kind of like a locking detent there at like 1/25th. On the front, you have to push this little nub. You have to take and push it down. And then you can turn to 15. There are, there's like a 10th of a second, a 15th of a second. There are little like detents, or detents. It's clicky, so you're locked into that speed. However, it doesn't. I mean, you know you're on that speed, but it doesn't lock the dial like it does at 1/25th. So this is 1/15th until it's a little slower still. Okay, and let's try 1/10th of a second. So the front of the dial is set at 1/25th, which makes control on this dial, which is set at 1/10th. This dial doesn't move when you release the shutter. It stays put. This is the dial that moves. That was 1/10th. So now I'm going to roll back to 1/25th. Did you hear that click? It kind of clicks into place. It's locked. So then you have to push it down again in order to get to a 1/5 of a second. Until it's slower. 1/5 of a second. One more time. Okay. Now let's try a half a second. Again, I can just turn without depressing, and then it kind of clicks into place. So this is a half a second. Try a 1 Mississippi test. Should finish before I finish 1 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi. So that's supposed to be a half a second. So now let's try 1 second. Okay, let's do the 1 Mississippi test. 1 Mississippi. A little longer, not too bad. 1 Mississippi. For the 70-year-old camera, 1 Mississippi. Oops. let's do it one more time. 1 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi. There we go. A little longer than 1 Mississippi, and then here without, just a couple times, just so you can hear the sound. I think it's a little longer than a second. Okay, let's take the dial and return it to 1/25 of a second. It locks into place. Let's go back to like a normal speed. 200th of a second. Nice and solid. Silky smooth. Okay, and that is My First Leica version 3. This is the working end of the camera. It takes a screw mount lens, 39 millimeter screw mount lens, called a LTM Leica thread mount. It's a thread mount. I believe it's also referred to as M39, maybe. And then I took this lens, which is a Leica Elmar. It's a 5 centimeter, 50 millimeter lens. It goes from f3.5 to f22, and it's raining like a dog. Windy and raining like a dog. I didn't want to take this like outside in the wind and rain. So what I did is I put this lens, it's also a collapsible lens. So it takes and will collapse into the camera body, and you take it out and lock it into place. So I took this lens, I set it to f3.5 wide open, and then what did I do? I took basically 4 different pictures at 5 different shutter speeds. So I took a test roll, 4 different scenes at 5 different shutter speeds, 1/25th of a second, 1/50th of a second, 1/100th of a second, 1/200th of a second, and 1/500th of a second. And where's that? Oh, I think the film roll is hanging up drying. So let me go get the film roll here. Hang on. We're gonna go get the film roll for you. Just gotta come right over here. Coming down here into the basement. Gonna get the film roll. Okay. All right, here we come. We're coming back. Hang in there. This is the film roll is like fresh from drying. A nice dried film roll. And here are the pictures. And the shutter has performed absolutely magnificently. Or did it perform magnificently? Anyway, so these are, for instance, right here, we have I guess you can't really tell. Can you tell that The exposures are getting lighter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you tell there that the exposures are getting lighter and lighter? Maybe not, but I'll go ahead and take this and digitize it and tack it on to the end of this video. So this is a keeper. I've had to like send the other two cameras back to the seller. My other two first Leicas, first Leica 3Fs, the two black dials, I had to RMA to the seller because they just weren't as advertised. They're supposed to be fully functional. The shutter was misbehaving. Slower speeds weren't working, and the shutters weren't fully opening all the time. On one, they were never fully opening. On the other, they were sometimes fully opening, sometimes not. So this seems to be in perfect working order. This is a keeper. This is My First Leica, version 3, but the one that I'm keeping, My First Leica. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Crusader Rabbit KBNY 5962, ending our broadcasting day. Good night, campers.